Hello YouTube, I am Slyelessar. I'm here to talk to you today about, is the Ricoh GR2 still relevant in 2018? So the Ricoh GR has been one of my most successful cameras. It goes with me everywhere. I know that in a busy environment I can successfully get decent street photographs with this camera. So I often find myself reaching for the Ricoh GR2 over larger cameras. The reason for this is I can take the Ricoh GR2 anywhere and get consistent great results. So I rely heavily on the camera's snap function, which is set to around a meter or so. The 28mm f2.8 lens, which is fantastically sharp, great little lens. And I rely on it being mostly a one-handed camera. So I usually shoot this camera on the street between ISO 800 and 1600. When I'm out and about, and the images are usually really usable. However, you can achieve this with most modern mirrorless cameras. You can also get cameras that have electronic shutter, which are a lot quieter. Although this is a very quiet camera and has a nice and quiet leaf shutter, it doesn't have just an electronic shutter function. So it does make it louder in very confined spaces or very quiet spaces. 16 megapixel sensor is very good. It renders really well. Images that it produces are fantastic. But with megapixel counts going up in recent years with cameras, does it really matter that this is 16 megapixels? In short, no. 16 megapixels is enough and you can get what you need. So I will admit that more than 16 megapixels is handy, especially if you find yourself cropping. Autofocus on other perhaps similar cameras or cameras around the same price, the autofocus is better. The autofocus on this camera is fairly slow. This may bother some people. So I can counter this by saying that the snap focus is fantastic. The ability to just press the shut button and wham, it locks in that focus, that distance instantly without any autofocus delay, no matter how minute. So I mean that is just a really reliable, handy thing to have on the streets. That does require you knowing exactly what distance you want to shoot at, and the majority of your photos being at that distance. So in conclusion, does the Ricoh GR2 still hold up in 2018? Yes, the Ricoh GR2 holds its own. With the sharp lens, high quality output, with the snap focus, it keeps the camera up there with the big guns in terms of getting adequate street photographs very quickly, very stealthily, very candidly even. And with this thought in mind, what would you like to see in the next model of the Ricoh GRs? So after a recent announcement on the Ricoh GR Facebook page, announcing there would be a GR website and an image of a timeline for the Ricoh GR3, possibly coming out in September. Now, although this post may or may not be accurate, it certainly brings a discussion again of what would you like to see in the Ricoh GR3, or even if it's not named the Ricoh GR3, what the next Ricoh GR offering is. So that's also something that I've been asked several times, is what would I like to see, what do I want in the next Ricoh GR model. Everyone has their own opinions and thoughts on that matter, but I'm just going to quickly go over some of mine. Just a heads up, I'm going to put images at the end from the Ricoh GR2 over the last, I suppose, year or so. So what would I like in the next Ricoh GR model, the GR3? Personally, there's a couple of things I would like in the next Ricoh GR model. Firstly, let me say that I love the Ricoh GR2 and I think in and of itself it is a great little camera. Improved autofocus. That's probably the first one. So I've mentioned the snap focus, how good the snap focus is. I also mentioned how not so good the autofocus is. That is where a big improvement could be made. If it could be quicker than that, because sometimes it does hunt, that's first and foremost, I guess. As someone that generally manually focuses cameras, asking for better autofocus seems really odd, but it is one of the weaknesses of this camera. The snap focus is perfect. Keep the snap focus in there. The electronic shutter / silence shutter mode. So as I mentioned, this has a very quiet leaf shutter, but you can still notice and hear the click in confined spaces, in silent environments. It can still be distracting and can be obvious that you're taking photographs. It can make it difficult to get candid in various situations where I've had electronic shutter that is just quiet, say on the X-T2. That's something I'd like them to include if at all possible, but I'm fairly happy with how quiet the camera is generally. When it comes out, it'd be great if it was fully Lightroom compatible. Obviously that's a big ask and that usually doesn't tend to happen. Cameras tend to be released before They tend to be the coding or whatever is needed to be done to make them more compatible and usable within Lightroom and other applications. So it's likely that the megapixel count is going to go up. That is a natural progression of the modern camera world, modern digital camera world. I find it highly unlikely that they're going to stick to 16 megapixels in the next model. Might go up to 18, might go up to 20, 24. You get a lot of 24 megapixels APS-C sensors out there, and keeping this APS-C is great. Don't make the sensor any smaller. I know in an ideal world a lot of people want a full frame Ricoh GRII. I don't think you can do that and keep this size, this weight at this point in time. Who knows in the future? I mean, that'd be fantastic if they could do that. I don't think that's going to happen. The video, as you probably know from seeing some of my videos, we do sometimes shoot B-roll footage or have to rely on this to get extra little bits of footage. It'd be great if the video was vastly improved in the next model. I know that's a silly ask considering this is essentially a stills street camera, but if you could get some decent footage out of it, that would be fantastic as well. But that is really is less important to me than having better autofocus and the silent shutter, if I'm being perfectly honest. Yeah, and the other thing is, I can't remember the name of the accessories. I'm sure a lot of people down in the comments below will tell me, or will comment what they are rather. That you can, so this comes off and you can put attachments over the top, sort of specific Ricoh GR filters, but also I suppose it's a lens extension that makes the lens go to 21mm equivalent instead of 28. Having the camera come out with a few of these would be pretty cool, because how expensive they are to buy separately. I've decided not to purchase them separately just because, well, A, how difficult it is now, certainly, to pick those up, and they're just not cheap. They're not cheap. So that would possibly be something else I might throw in there. Apart from that, keep the menu system, fantastic. This is a brilliant stepping stone to start with. So anything that you come out that can improve upon this is going to be great. It's going to be top stuff. So yeah, I'm going to stick some images at the end. But the overriding thing here is the Ricoh GR2 is still relevant in 2018. I still use it all the time. I still grab this camera, I still put it in my pocket, and it's still one of the most fun cameras I've ever had to shoot with, especially on the streets. When I've gone on holiday to Helsinki, okay, it's fixed 28mm equivalent, but that just means I've learned how to use it in more situations than others. Obviously, you can't do wildlife photography so much. Motorsport photography, it's not built for that. It's built for street. It's built for convenience, and it's just a great little pocketable camera that be welcoming in any street photographer's arsenal. Anyway, I'm Slyelessar. Have a good one.
To release this quantum shift ain't gonna get
I know that in a busy environment I can take this photo